This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Thank you for tuning in to episode 260, which means 5 years of podcasting with my co-host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for following along. It's great that this is the episode where we can talk about finally covering a major Detroit sports team. We'll talk about it later on in this podcast when we talk about the Detroit Tigers and we talk about the Detroit Lions. Major news. I mean, this show was interesting in that we had it all laid out, and then again, major national news broke out, and we got to get to it. But cheers to us. We did big things. We said we were going to do big things, and it's happening, and I can't wait to share with everybody later on what's it like covering a Detroit Tigers game as a podcast, the politics, the good, the bad, what it all entails for the network. It'll be a good listen. Stay tuned for that later on in the show. But heard any good news lately? Holy cow, sir. I mean, national news broke earlier on Wednesday when it started swirling. A former ESPN employee had to release it via Facebook. Really interesting to see a report released on Facebook, but a former ESPN employee, Brett McMurphy, I believe,
Yes.
He released and found out that, I guess, Urban Meyer had addressed the media regarding an ex-employee now of Ohio State, an ex-coach who had issues with, domestic violence. And when he was questioned about it, initially he told the media, I didn't know anything about it. Obviously, when you put something on record, the media goes back and starts to investigate. And they did. And this reporter found out that, the ex-wife of said coach has been releasing texts and saying, no, Urban and his wife both knew what was going on. The tough part is, and I'll get your sense of what's going on, is it seems like from what I've read, today and in the last couple of days regarding this whole thing, it's a lot of hearsay. And I know people are rushing to judgment. It's a lot of, is this true? It's a lot of looking at situations where this person who's releasing these texts has also had a history of lying in the past. So we still got to give it a little bit more time.
Back that up?
Yeah.
You can?
That this lady has lied before?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've saw reports that said that this lady, this ex, has lied about this coach before.
There are 9 documented incidences of domestic abuse between her and Zach Smith. So there is a history here.
Yes.
So I don't know if she's lying or not.
But no, I'm not. Maybe not about this particular situation, but I'm saying in the past, and looking at it, when people have said what I've read, said that there's a lot of hearsay, and people that are looking at the validity of this woman's statements, she has a history of lying in the past, and so now we're talking about an ex of a former coach, and there might be some vindictiveness here, and so what they're saying is, look. It looks all bad for Urban and what we learned.
I love doing this podcast with you because we always end up on opposite sides of the aisle.
No. What I'm saying is Urban Meyer has been placed on administrative leave. This is looking bad, and it's starting to look like, and I know you've seen it too, situations in which James Gunn and situations like Trayvon Martin in the past where a story kind of has started. And it's growing to a point now where a lot of people are looking at it, and the added fire from everybody else is going, wait a minute, similar to Penn State, similar to other things that are going on, similar to Michigan State. If there's things going on and people are lying about it, that's awful. If it's all true, if it comes out that everything that this reporter is saying is absolutely true, factually speaking, and it's all coming out, there's no other way that I see that Urban Meyer keeps his job. I think it's going to be one of those things where the national fury is going to be really hot, and I don't see a way he survives. At least right now, I don't see a way in which he can survive this because the fury is getting way up there.
Let's start with Urban Meyer because I think that's the biggest bone if you're a Michigan or a Michigan State fan that you want to chew on, and then we can kind of get to the crux of the actual issue here. Urban Meyer, not even 7 hours after Brett McMurphy released his story on his own Facebook page, with pictures, these are all documented pictures, he gets placed on administrative leave, which usually is a signal that the company that you work for, or in this case, the university that you work for, is looking into either A, how do we cover our own ass, or B, how do we fire this guy and get out from underneath all of this? So this looks really, really bad for Urban Meyer. He's on administrative leave. Who is it? Ryan, hold on one sec here. Ryan Day is going to be the interim coach. He's going to take over basically all the football operations. While Urban Meyer is on administrative leaves, he's going to make over $20,000 a day because it's paid administrative leave. Ohio State at this point, they're trying to figure out if Urban Meyer knew something about this situation between, Courtney Smith and Zach Smith, and if he did not tell or if he hid anything from the Board of Trustees. Now, I guess earlier this year in his contract, there was a clause or a stipulation inserted into it where basically, and it all revolves around Title IX. Title IX is such a sticky issue, and it can get really, really messy. And I really believe, unless you're an attorney, you're going to have a hard time explaining what Title IX is to the layman. So what this clause states is that if somebody on his football team, somebody on his coaching staff, somebody related to the coaching staff, or somebody related to one of his football players, basically anybody who has any access or connection to the football team or the football office, if they perform some type of impropriety, he has to report it immediately.
Right.
Immediately. Zach Smith, from what it sounds like, Urban Meyer's been kind of covering up his tracks for the last couple of years. Now, Zach Smith has been with Urban Meyer for a long time. Zach Smith was a walk-on at Ball State when Urban Meyer was the coach there. From there, he goes to Florida. Zach Smith comes with him. From there, Urban Meyer takes him to Ohio State. Now, a lot of this is stemming from a report from 2015. There was also an incident back in 2009, and like I'd mentioned before, there were 9 other separate documented issues that took place over that course of that time. Now, all of this is kind of coming out because Urban Meyer I believe it was last Friday at the Big Ten meetings, came out and said, I don't know anything about this. I'm not really sure what any of this is. So basically put his own foot in his own mouth. Brett McMurphy, being the good reporter that he is and the good journalist that he is, was like, cool, let me go follow up on all this. Goes, follows up on it, gets pictures, gets text messages between Courtney Smith and Urban Meyer's wife, who, mind you, is a registered nurse, who works for Ohio State University.
Now, do you believe that something
has to report any type of issue like this?
Now, is there any chance that
it gets really messy now?
Yes. Is there any chance that you believe those that may say, well, it was texted to Urban's wife? Does that mean that Urban knows it right away?
Well, I think that's the loophole where he might be able to get out of this, right? It's going to be, well, my wife knew about it, and basically she's going to have to fall on the sword. She will then get fired from OSU, and I'm not sure what will happen to her nursing license, because this is a big issue. She will have to fall on the sword, and he might get, maybe a little smack across the wrist. So I think that might happen, that there's a possibility that will happen, because he can just deny it all. I don't know. But according to Courtney Smith, all of the wives knew. All of the wives knew. You mean to tell me that none of the husbands knew and none of the coaching staff knew? Which then you have to remember too. It's a football program. Who's the head honcho of the football program? Who runs everything? Everything that's going in and out of that office is ran and controlled by one man. And at this place, it's Urban Meyer. So at some point, either he knew or somebody on his staff knew. In this case, his wife obviously knew. We have the text messages. She obviously knew. So he should have known something. Somebody in his football, on his football staff was either abusing or getting abused, and he did nothing about it. And that's the big issue here.
And in 2018, for this to happen is shocking. I can't believe that someone like an Urban Meyer.
Have you seen these pictures, by the way?
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
They're very graphic.
They're very graphic, and it's very detailed, good reporting. I'm just shocked. My mind doesn't allow me to go, at what point as a society do we learn from the past? I mean, look, when you are a mandated reporter, as I am being a psychologist, you can't mess with that. They take your license, and especially when, there have been really marquee events in the past that have been talked about, that have been disseminated, it should be a no-brainer. I learned something, I report it. You have to do that because eventually do you not get paranoid? How does Urban Meyer sleep at night? How does he not worry that eventually something like this is going to come out? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Does he just think that, you know what, our systems are in place and nothing's ever going to get revealed? Does he really think that lowly of the media? I mean, look, we're going to talk about social media later on in this podcast. Don't former athletes think that people are looking at their Twitter right now, especially if you're doing something great? You know, that day, the biggest aha moments are, look, an Atlanta Braves pitcher's almost throwing a no-hitter. Aha. Oh, he sent tweets out. People are looking in real time. So if you're a coach at Ohio State, if you're Urban Meyer, I can't even think as a psychologist, how could you in good faith be aware of something like this and or when the media asks you about it, kind of give a really lame answer, or a real, like, look, I can't talk about this right now. It's something that, you know, is still ongoing. Give like no room for everyone to believe that you're a liar, that you covered this up. It's a nightmare for Ohio State. And I do think that in the coming weeks, that this could be a real big PR problem for Ohio State, and one in which it could cost Urban Meyer his job. I don't see a scenario in which, you know, the favor of the public is going to come back to Ohio State. People are really coming down. And for those fans that are kind of reveling in it for Michigan State, that's a little bit low class.
You're all idiots.
That's bad. I saw it.
It's just like when everything happened with Michigan State, right?
Yeah.
You're all idiots. If you're pumping your chest up and you're excited about what happened to this woman and how it affects Ohio State, you're an idiot. If you're excited about what happened with Larry Nassar in Michigan State, you're an idiot. And
here's another kind of loophole. People are looking at the exact terms of the contract in which Urban Meyer could be fired for cause. It says here, his contract includes prospect of termination for cause in the event of finding that he failed to report sexual misconduct, including harassment and stalking, while employed at Ohio State or any institution of higher learning.
In 2015, I believe it was aggravated assault.
Yeah,
that was what the issue was. So he
there might be some
he's
loopholes.
on a tightrope here. He's on a tightrope.
High-priced lawyers might go down the road of legalese here, but in the matter of public opinion, still not reporting something, having the willingness to lie to the public about what you knew and when you knew it. I don't know if you're an Ohio State fan, how do you look at yourselves and go, this is our guy? You've got your championships. You have a situation in which this guy's been a little bit murky in the past. I'm thinking, you know what? It's time for a doctor's appointment. It's time for that ticker to start going out again. It's time for that family time. Increase family time for the Meyers and kind of slowly ease your way out of this one, because it's bad all the way around. And there's no other way around it. It's bad. It's bad. I don't think that Urban Meyer is going to survive it, and it's just unfortunate that we still got to talk about the failure to report seriousness in somebody that you're employed that formerly worked for you.
Yeah, I don't know how he gets out of this. I think there is enough smoke where there is actually a fire. I could see Ohio State turning around in the next, I don't know, 2-3 days and issuing a statement where they let go of Urban Meyer. Again, it all kind of comes down to that one little line in his contract. And the fact that you have to remember, Ohio State just got out of a whole mess of crap with Jim Tressel. You know, they've been down this road before. You know, Ohio State is like the one school in the Big Ten that does everything like the SEC. And they don't do it good enough. They always seem to get caught. You know, like, how long can Alabama do what Alabama's doing? How long could Florida do what Florida was doing? How long could LSU do whatever LSU's doing? You know what I'm saying? You don't ever really hear stories about any of those programs because they do a really good job keeping it all hidden. Ohio State, on the other hand, is whatever. And I think with Urban Meyer, he got to such a level, winning so much. I mean, he's been the number 2 football coach in all of college football now for years, only behind Nick Saban in Alabama. He got to such a point where I think maybe he started to believe his own hype, started to kind of puff his own little chest out, and didn't really take things too serious. You know, I win way too much. I bring way too much money in here. I'm worth, I think he gets paid $6 million a year. What are you going to do? Fire me? You going to let me go? I'm the one who brings you all kinds of money. I bring you championships. I make your school relevant. I think he started to believe that.
So while there's a massive now amount of noise surrounding Ohio State, Michigan had started to face similar noise because ex-players, ex-quarterbacks that no longer are part of Michigan started chirping to the media. You had this article in the Bleacher Report, Shea Patterson was talking about what his reaction was to kind of being called the savior and things like that. But there were some quotes there from Wilton Speight and John O'Korn regarding Jim Harbaugh. And John O'Korn has now come out and basically, without really saying it, blasted Michigan fans for the way they treated him. Wilton Speight kind of had a quote regarding Jim Harbaugh really preferring steak and that eating chicken is unacceptable because it's a nervous bird. So Jim
Harbaugh's a weird dude.
Yeah.
He's a strange cat.
I was talking to Jason and Vito, and now talking to you about it. College football needs to start because Michigan...
No, Vito's a Michigan fan, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say I'm the only Michigan fan here, but no, Vito's a Michigan fan too.
Michigan's got to start playing ball because people are looking for things now in terms of, being critical regarding Jim Harbaugh. And it's starting to be a situation in which it's not being about football. It's about stuff off the field, Jim Harbaugh's
But it's always
personality.
been about stuff about off the field.
Yeah, it has.
I mean, from the moment he's come in, it's always been about either having a recruiting seminar with Ric Flair or having
PJ time with the recruits.
Right, going to wherever, like an African safari, or going to Rome, or going wherever, hanging out with the Pope and giving him Jordan shoes. Like, it's always been something else. It's never really been about the on the field. I think we both agree Jim Harbaugh is a very good coach, right?
And a polarizing figure.
He is very polarizing. Jim Harbaugh's faults, I think, myself, watching him the last couple years and just kind of everything that I've come to know and understand about Jim Harbaugh just by watching, and this goes back to when he was in the NFL, I think Jim Harbaugh likes himself some Jim Harbaugh. And I think at certain times, Jim Harbaugh thinks he's the smartest guy on the field.
Yes.
And that puts himself and his team in precarious situations.
Now, you and I both, in several podcasts, have really taken a look critically at Mark D'Antonio and Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
So for this episode, our 5-year anniversary, we want to take a little bit more of a celebratory tone. And so I said to you, look, everyone's going to pick apart D'Antonio. Everyone's going to pick apart Harbaugh. Everyone looks to the 3-9 season for D'Antonio, that offense, the struggle sometimes of Michigan State in big games. Everyone's going to look at Jim Harbaugh's specific play calling, the lack of victories versus big rivals. Everyone's looking at all that. But for this episode 260, the celebratory edition, we just wanted to have a little segment where we just talked about what are the strengths of the two coaches that lead the big-time programs. And definitely, in terms of Mark D'Antonio, I'll let you speak on Jim Harbaugh. Mm-hmm. Mark D'Antonio, you can tell, has instilled a level of competitiveness with Michigan State. He's developed a brand. And what people will say, what's Michigan State's brand in football? Toughness, resiliency, being able to look your opponents right in the face and say, look, this is what we provide, and you have to beat us. Very rarely does Michigan State beat itself, meaning that Mark D'Antonio has this old-school way of presenting his football team. Look, we're going to build through the trenches. We're going to have a good offensive line. We're going to be able to pound the football when we need to. And when the time comes when we need big plays, we're going to try and go out there and execute, force the turnover, smash mouth. And what Mark D'Antonio has done really well is he's taken the smallest little sliver of disrespect, and you and I know that via our text this week. Disrespect can take on a lot of different forms, from where you hear it, where you look for it. Somehow or another, there's a lot of disrespect from the way that the media talks about D'Antonio, from the way they misspell his name, from the way that they kind of have said, and they write off Michigan State every year and put them below Michigan. He takes any avenue to look for disrespect and then blows it up to epic proportions. And you can honestly say that when Michigan State has played Michigan, they've looked like the hungrier team. They look like the team that's been disrespected, and they want to go out and prove themselves against Michigan. That should be, for Michigan fans, enough respect to say, look, Michigan State is not talking like this regarding Ohio State, Northwestern, Wisconsin. They're going at it directed toward their rival. And that's the biggest sign of respect is, look, we view Michigan as our biggest rival. We want to play and perform at the highest level in those moments. And he's taken a program like Michigan State that's been known for college basketball and has made them a perennial team that you got to talk about. Now, can they consistently reach goals? No, but at the same time, from where they started from in his entire tenure, Mark D'Antonio has instilled a program identity. And what he's able to do is say, look, there are things that are surrounding Michigan State, noise, off the field issues. There are things that every program deals with, but he's been able to insulate the players. He's been able to take that program and say, look, we had an awful year, a 3-win year. That's an anomaly. That, Michigan State football program was able to go to the college football playoff, made national noise. They've have quarterbacks now across the NFL. They're doing things slowly. And fans like me, we want to see the biggest success, but overall, Mark D'Antonio is a leader of men, and as a football coach, I do believe that he has the ability to continue to lead Michigan State. And one of the biggest strengths I do think that he has is that in terms of keeping everything together when things are falling apart, I do think that Mark D'Antonio has this kind of calming presence over that entire football program. Whereas you look to him and you say, well, have there been guys that have done some things? Yeah. What has come out currently factually regarding his culpability? That's probably still being investigated. But as of this recording, Mark D'Antonio has done things above board for the most part in terms of keeping players in line and keeping players, because you got to remember, each football team has like 80 football players. And so you offer a lot of scholarships. And when you start being at a program for, 8, 9, 10 years, you're coming across 800 players. If 15 to 20 of them are doing nefarious things, that percentage, starts to look bad when you hyper-focus on that. But overall, until factual information comes out that Mark D'Antonio suppressed information or, did something similar to Urban Meyer, Mark D'Antonio is the right guy for that job and has done great things for that program and for the guys that have been part of it.
I think Mark D'Antonio is a great head coach.
Yeah,
everything you said, I echo it. I think he's awesome for that program. He's the right guy for that job.
He's a football coach. He just looks like when Vito talked to him, he said he just got a presence. He's got that leader of men quality. He just looks like a tough-nosed SOB that should be coaching football.
He says a whole lot without saying a whole lot.
Yeah.
It's really, really weird.
Yeah.
Like you totally get what he's saying when he's saying it, and it's in the most minuscule amount of words ever.
And then to show respect for Harbaugh, look, the man's still, I think, 28-11. Look, there are situations in which coaches football teams across the country would die for 28 wins in 3 years. But I understand that he has to face his expectations, that he is one of the top 3 highest paid coaches in the entire land. And so when you're, getting paid like the big time boss, you're going to be treated and evaluated like a boss. But Jim Harbaugh brings a lot to the table. And in a similar way, I do think that even though it's looked at as weird, when you watched Amazon and the way he talked, it's metaphorical, it's philosophical. He relates probably more in terms of the way he talks to a guy like me who's in his almost 40s, in terms of metaphors like, hey, you got to be passionate, you got to work hard, you got to take it day by day. These kids are a little bit different in that they look at him cross-eyed going, what the hell is this guy talking about? Because he talks a little bit philosophically. And at 18 years old, you're not really thinking along those lines. Mm-hmm. So when I was watching, I'm like, okay, it is weird. It does come across as weird, but I get the fact that he's passionate. What he tries to do is use psychological metaphors, life metaphors, to really indicate that, look, football and life really go hand in hand. And what he's able to do when you look at kind of his method is he's trying to say, look, if you work hard, if you put in the greatest amount of effort, if you work to achieve and get better, there are opportunities in your life to have success. Now, will you always have success? No. And Michigan has faced early failures. But right now, he's being insulated a little bit by those that say it's going to take time. He's already won several amount of games. The rivalry games are now next in line for the goals to be achieved. And I think that, right now, in terms of how college football might play out, if Ohio State falls by the wayside, who's next in line to get all the hype? It's going to be Michigan. And when you got your quarterback, if Shea Patterson comes up right, Michigan has a solid chance to do some things, and it might be that year where Harbaugh can silence the critics.
Yeah, I think he's a great head coach, right? Maybe great's not the right term. I think maybe very good. I think he's a very good head coach. I would say he is probably a top 5, top 10 head coach. I think he's very, very smart. There's a lot to be desired if you're a Michigan fan. You have to remember, when he came to Michigan, he was supposed to be the savior. He came in with a ton of pomp and circumstance. He came in with a ton of hype. And then you factor in the amount of money he's getting paid. I think all that makes it very, very difficult if you're in his shoes, especially if you're not winning right away.
So what do you like about him? When you say, okay, that's our head coach, that's the guy that's in charge of leading Michigan men, what do you like about him? One or two things.
He has an identity to him, right? And this football program does have an identity. Now, offensively, I think we're all still kind of questioning what that is exactly, but he's a defensive-minded coach, right? You can tell because he went out there, he got Don Brown, and he's like, Don Brown, go ahead, do your thing. And the last couple of years, he has put out one of the best defenses regularly. So I know that he's a quarterback guy, and he's supposed to be this quarterback guru, but the guy has an identity, especially for defense. He can go out and target the guys that he needs for his defense. On top of that, he's a master recruiter. Sleeping with
potential recruits,
in
their homes,
in pajamas,
PJ parties
on their floor. Like I say that, and it kind of sounds weird if you just stop. It's kind of like 4 dicks.
Yeah.
So, but I think he's a really good head coach. He just has to win the big game, and he just hasn't been able to do that yet. But I think he's a guy who comes into a program. Again, there were a lot of expectations laid at his feet. He's done a masterful job whipping that defense into shape. On top of that, when he first came in, he took a lot of round pegs and was sticking them into square holes and making them work. He was getting the most out of guys he didn't recruit. It's now time for him to get the most out of the guys that he went out and he hand-selected. And if you're Michigan, you have to be telling yourself, this is our year. This is the year where we're going to see a dramatic leap forward, whether Urban Meyer's here or not. This is the year where you've got to see Jim Harbaugh take that next step.
Here's how I want to put it. In terms of those that support Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, I feel like what he's been able to do was, at the time when Michigan kind of fell off, I feel like there were factions that were splintered in terms of all over the place in terms of the Michigan fan base. They got splintered a little bit regarding what are we doing with the program? This is not the Michigan that we have come to know and love. And what he's been able to do is rally those people and has brought together a lot of support. And those, it's not universal. You know that, and I know that. There is a certain segment of fans that are not happy. There's certain media that are, bringing it to the table regarding his faults. But what happens is, and what I see is, those that support him so feverishly and so passionately that it kind of overshadows some of those that are chirping and things like that. So I still see the support in terms of the intensity, the passion, the belief, the symbol of a Michigan head coach right now, as we speak, is the guy that's currently the head coach in Jim Harbaugh. So that's kind of how I want to explain, is that he's been able to rally the troops in a way that hasn't been seen in the past decade. Now, is it the right way? It's yet to be determined. But in terms of being able to walk in day one and have a bunch of people saying, that's a Michigan guy, that's our guy, he comes from us, and whatever happens, we're going to give him at least till year 4 and 5. And after that, this year and next, then you'll start to see, how much the fans continue to support him if there's not enough success.
Let me ask you this. If Shea Patterson works out, and we're both assuming here that he's going to be the starting quarterback this year, if he works out and he is a much better quarterback than, say, Wilton Spate, better than Jake Rudock, and way better than John O'Canacorn, and Brandon Peters, right? He is that guy. Not necessarily the savior, but he's a much better quarterback than whatever Rudock gave you, and he's a guy who can help carry a program. Doesn't have to put it all on its back, but can help carry a program. Do you think that makes a dramatic difference in what you're going to see with this Michigan team? And do you think that changes the way his program is looked at?
I think then what will happen is you'll have tape of what a quarterback should look like playing for Michigan. A guy that can be mobile, similar to Colin Kaepernick. This is what a guy, if he's the right guy for Michigan under Harbaugh, what that offense can be. And you've seen in the past, Michigan's offense has scored. They've done some things. They've been able to move the football, utilize tight ends, the run game. The last missing piece has been that quarterback, the guy that just has that it factor, like a Colin Kaepernick, like an Andrew Luck, and you just need that guy with the moxie that, hey, when plays break down, I'm going to pick up this team and go all the way and handle the business and carry the team. And right now, the quarterbacks that he's had the first 3 years have just been a little bit overwhelmed and under-talented.
I agree 100%. I think if he can get his quarterback, get his guy who can digest what he wants to do and then go out there and actually perform, it's going to make this Michigan team look totally different because he has a very good defense. He's had a very good defense the last couple seasons. They've been impactful. He's had guys who have stood out and have been game changers on the defensive side of the ball. It's trying to find that one guy, that quarterback, the guy who has the ball in his hands every single down, trying to find him and make him be the game changer to help lead that offense. It really, this team for the last 3 years has been carried by the defense, and that's a credit to Jim Harbaugh. He's got to now find his quarterback, somebody who can help lead that offense. And if you can lead that offense, I think you have enough playmakers in the wide receiver ranks as well as at running back to where it's going to help make this team that much better. And you could be looking at possibly a Big Ten champion. Now, the offensive line still has a ton of question marks. We talked about it last week on the podcast, and he's going to have to get that righted. But I think that's going a long way, and I think it's going to come around, especially come the second or third game of the season.
Second half of the podcast, you're going to want to stay and listen. We're going to talk about the Detroit Tigers. What's it been like to cover them? Adam's reaction to the trade deadline. You're going to definitely want to listen to that. We'll talk about the Detroit Lions early camp talk, and we'll finish the podcast quickly talking about social media. Obviously, since we grew this thing via social media, athletes are on alert. They have to be on alert. They can't be ignorant to this anymore. We'll just talk about that quickly at the end of the podcast. Stay with us. You're listening to the 5th year anniversary party special, episode 260 of Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Doc and Jock here for our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I started this project 5 years ago, we were looking for a great place to host all of our recorded audio, and thank goodness we found Podomatic. Why do we use them? We've recorded now over 1,000 podcasts in 5 years. We're doing shows, releasing them every single day, Monday through Sunday, a little bit of content here and there, great in-depth interviews, fun sports debates. Adam and I, we try to plan shows, and we're like, dude, are we going to talk for 3 hours today? We try to get it into 70 minutes, and we've been able to do that. We've been able to have fun and grow this project because we got a great host site. All the great guests can hear it. Adam can share it with everybody. I can share it with my friends. If you're looking to start a brand new project, if you're looking to start a brand new podcast, you got to have a host site so that all your supporters can listen, and that's how we've been able to grow this thing. If you're going to start a brand new project, check out Podomatic.com. So, Adam, the best metaphor I can use is we got the call-up. I mean, we've been covering college basketball. We've been covering lesser-known, lesser-hyped events, even events, similar to the NCAA and things like that. There are acclaimed, but when you start talking about going to the big leagues and walking into a major league, team and their press box, you're looking around and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Rod Allen, there's Mario Pembo, there's Kirk Gibson, there's Alan Trammell. It's all in one place.
Did you go shake hands and introduce yourself?
No.
Really? Hey, Mario, you've been on my podcast.
Yeah, no. What I did was, and the strategy that I'll tell anybody is the first day, you just soak it all in. Be like, what the hell's going on here? How am I here? Am I worthy to be here? Then you're like, of course I'm worthy to be here. So the first time I went to Comerica Park, I was like, okay, I kind of have a lay of the land a little bit. I have friends in the media that kind of talked me through what to do. And so the first day I was just in awe, looking around, seeing everything, because you don't conceptualize. You think like what you know. And I just thought, okay, it'd be like a room and there's media. No, the road team's radio's there, the road team's TV, the home team's TV and radio are all there. Everybody's walking around, so I'm just walking by and, oh, there's Kirk Gibson. Oh, there's Alan Trammell. Oh, there's the TV guys. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? So I sat down and was professional. Second time I went was a lot better in that I'm comfortable and I'm going to go actually get content for the network. And all along the way, covering the games, I was, getting information for the network, tweeting it out, and I did an article. I did audio. And the third day, which was the day of this recording on Wednesday, I actually went down to the dugout, figured out where the athletes kind of come out and things like that, waited for Matt Boyd, and I was able to secure about 90 seconds of audio, for the network, reporting on what he thought about the trade deadline and things like that. Obviously, in between there, the second day, I had a feeling Al Avila was going to do a media scrum in the dugout, so I worked my way down there about 10 minutes early. Nobody else was around. All of a sudden, like 15 media show up, and there's Al Avila. I'm like, okay, I know what to do. I positioned myself and listened, and I handled business, so it was professional. The part that's difficult is when you're an independent outlet, you don't exactly know what's right, what's wrong in terms of protocol. They give you like a basic guideline, which is don't do this, don't post video, don't do this. But like in terms of like small stuff, like, hey, like, do you take an interview after another beat reporter takes it? Are you allowed to just walk? Because in terms of restrictions, we don't have clubhouse access. So I'm walking through the seats to get to the field. And so I don't know if people are looking at me weird. You don't know the little intricacies of things here and there in terms of like, okay, do I tweet this at this time? Do I write this at that time? So the good thing is with this experience is we get to do it a little bit more often. There's like 30 games left. We're going to attend at least half of them. And the way I took it was, this is great. I can take all the hits as a guy that's, a non-journalist. I can, make all the mistakes, work my way through, do this, do that, and then I can parlay the information to you guys, you and Vito, for next year as we continue, because I don't see us really doing anything that's going to hurt the relationship, because we're a real media entity. You, Vito, Jason, you're all real journalists, and I have the ability to do the interviews and work my way into doing what I'm supposed to do. But with that, I want to talk about
you just piss off regular beat writers,
right?
Who cover the team regularly.
No, I don't piss off anybody. The thing
they just get bent out of shape because you're a blogger.
Yeah, the thing that we just got to be careful is that I don't know what people's perception of me was, other than I know they were shocked to see me because I saw their reactions. I'm like, what the heck?
Well, before you go any further, I think it's awesome that through this outlet and through this media entity that we have and we've created, and we did start in a basement,
yes.
and we did start with a computer that froze up, and we did start with microphones that are not as good as the microphones we have now.
Right.
And through all of this, we have made friends with people in the media. So when you go to events like this,
hey, what's up? What's going on? They ask you questions.
They basically, you get the rub. Your credibility is because of these guys who are already there and who are already doing this. So they
been
give
on
you the
podcast.
Rub. Exactly. So they give you the rub. So instantly, when you walk into a situation like the Tigers dugout where all the media is lined up, you walk in, they're like, who's this weird looking guy?
Right.
And you have a friend or two that comes up to you and says, hey, what's going on?
Exactly.
How you doing? And the rest of the guys are like, wait, you know Justin Rose?
Right.
Oh, you know Sky? Oh, you know Jeff Rieger?
Yep.
Oh, you know these guys? Like, instantly you get the rub, and your credibility now multiplies.
Exactly. And the part that's interesting is that as a podcast network, what are we viewed as? A blogger? No, we're not bloggers. An audio-based entity. We're a media outlet. Everybody here has a media degree. So the way I look at it is it's just an ultimate sign of respect that they took a chance on us, and we're not going to let anybody down. We have the ability to do it. It's just in our own way, which is different. And I think that's what is...
it scares them.
It scares people because what's going on? What does it mean that a podcast is here? Really nothing. It means that we are an outlet that has people that follow us, that when we say, hey, Adam's going to be on the air, they go and listen to him because of the fact that he has the reps. He knows what he's doing. He has been a huge part of helping me get to that point, because I told him if Adam wasn't part of this project, I wouldn't say, yeah, I'm going to go be a Detroit Tigers beat reporter, when I knew like maybe my realistic approach would say, if you ask me like what's the realistic chance you're going to do it, I'd say, well, probably 5%. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to keep saying these things. And eventually what happened was, the biggest thing I can say regarding how we grew this thing was we just kept saying, well, if we can do this, let's do that. If we did that, let's do this. And eventually we just said, screw it. We want to cover a pro team. We can do it. And it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm confident that we can do good work. It's not shoddy work. It's not irresponsible. Now, is it exactly 1970s journalistically? No. But is it exactly something where it's worthy of getting dismissed? No. So we're right in the middle, right where we belong.
It is what our audience consumes.
Exactly.
Where we have...
I give the people what they want.
Right. We have a built-in audience, and they are accustomed to digesting certain things that we provide to them a certain way. And that's the way we do it.
Sarcastically, funny, not self-deprecating, not all too serious, and we have a good time with it. And kudos to us.
As long as we're professional about it.
Look at this.
That's
I'm showing
all
you.
that matters.
They stuck they stuck my face.
Look at that.
I gave them a specific picture with my face on headphones.
Which one did you give of me?
I'll show you. I'll show you.
I have to go.
No, next week I'll show you when you come in when we have more time,
Okay.
because we're on the time trade.
You sent me a message, and I was like,
you're going to change it.
Man.
You're going to change it. It's a nice one. You'll like it.
Is it me when I was in my underwear with
No. It's just a face photo. Come on now. So with that said, believe it. If you think you can do it, give it a shot. Credit to the network for being able to handle business. Now, I want to ask you straight up, straightforward. Trade deadline happened this week. You were not happy. One move was made. Leonis Martin was traded for Willie Castro. El Avila revealed that he had targeted Castro last year. He's now the fourth person that could be the everyday shortstop in 2021.
like 47 shortstops.
We got 47 shortstops.
He'll probably be a second baseman, by the way. That's his better position.
Yeah, so you look at it and you go, was it what everybody wanted? No. The tone that everyone messaged us with on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast was not favorable.
Okay, well, let me say this to start. I like this trade.
Yes.
Okay, I think Willie Castro will turn out to possibly be a okay player. He might be a utility player, but I like what he got in return. You basically had a guy who was walking out the door at the end of the season, right? He was going to be a free agent. You had no way of retaining him, no way of keeping him. You essentially traded him for something for the future. And Willie Castro may be your second baseman of the future. There's a lot to be desired with his hitting right now, and that's kind of where we're at. He's 21. He's very young. So he's playing in, I believe, high A ball right now.
You're probably not going to see him for 3 years anyway.
Exactly. I like what he did with the one trade he made. My big issue is there was one trade that was made. You have guys on this roster who, just like Leonys Martin, are walking out the door at the end of the year. Francisco Liriano, for one. All right? You mean to tell me that a guy who can either come out of your bullpen or be in your starting rotation, he could be a lefty specialist. Do you realize lefties are hitting $113 off of him right now? He is a guy who you could package and get somebody else in here.
With that said, his last 4 performances have been less than stellar. His last outing was scrapped because, I don't know, he ate something funky and he got an allergy or something happened in terms of his availability to perform. And here's the other part about it. Al was asked by the great media, myself included, what did you think about only being able to generate one trade? And he said, look, it has to fit the way that we want it. And meaning, one, the player has to be available. Okay, right. The player has to be somebody that the Tigers get, that they want, that is available for a trade. 2, the other team has to want the player. So Al Avila's not going to come out and say, well, nobody wanted Liriano. Right. But in essence, what he said was, because of the fact the market was flooded, the code that he used was market flooded. He basically said, and the error that he made that you're going to point out is, why bring on Liriano and pay him $4 million if you were not going to flip him? You had to. But here's the thing that has to happen. He has to perform in August. There's a small chance you can waive him, get him cleared through waivers. He
won't clear waivers,
That's the problem.
None of these guys that you have left are going to clear waivers. They will all be picked up by somebody.
Exactly.
So my big issue in obviously the great Al Avila did not admit to this, but he messed this entire thing up by not getting out in front of the market. The marketplace, if you sat back and you looked at what was going on with this team.
Yeah, how do you get in front of a market?
And you look at what was going on with this team, and, well, okay, so listen to this, all right? Going into the season, you had no aspirations of this team winning anything.
Nothing.
Right? Nothing at all.
Lose a lot.
Right. We both wanted them to finish top 5 so they can get another high-end draft pick, right? So you know you're not going to win. You look at your lineup, and you're like, well, we ain't going to win. It's just not going to happen. You have a shortstop in Jose Iglesias at the end of April and the beginning of May with a team like the Dodgers, who ended up with Manny Machado, so good for them. But you have a team out there in L.A. at the end of April and in the beginning of May that needed a shortstop. You could have sat there, got them on the phone, and said, hey, we got a shortstop. We got like 92 of them in our minor league system. I've got one right now. He's really great defensively. Generally, he hits in between 275, 300. Sometimes a little bit of a hot dog, but good God, he makes spectacular plays. He would fit perfectly for your Dodgers. All we need is one prospect.
Right.
One high-end prospect, send it my way.
Wait,
hold on.
I want to disagree with that, though.
Hold on. You can disagree after. So, Miguel Cabrera, your best player, up at bat, rips his bicep off of his arm. The moment his bicep rips from his arm, Al Avila needs to be on the phone being like, all right, cool, we got all these guys. Who you want? Because this season's over. The moment his bicep gets ripped off of his arm, you're not winning jack squat. We weren't expecting to win jack squat at that time anyways. And if you remember, when Miguel Cabrera ripped his bicep off of his arm, Liriano was pitching out of his mind. Mike Fiers was kind of coming into his own, so I understand maybe not trading him away at that time because he was kind of really starting to get it together, but Liriano was pitching out of his mind. All right, on top of that, Leonys Martin, again, I like that trade. I thought it was awesome. I thought that worked out really well. Shane Green is another guy you could have looked at. Nick Castellanos is another guy you could have possibly traded if the organization wasn't so stubborn to sit there and leave him out in right field. If you showcase him as a first baseman, he is a future first baseman for some other team who can hit with some power. Nobody wants to take this guy because all they think he can play is right field, and he's a butcher in right field. You put him at first base, he learns it for a little bit, gets decent enough at it, you can turn around and be like, look, he's played third base, He's okay. He's played first base. He's better. And he sucks in right field. But he's a guy with some versatility who can hit for power, and he could be in your everyday lineup. Right there. But Al Avila didn't have the foresight to do this. Instead, he waits until 15 other teams are just as bad as him, and they're like, you know what? We're selling everything off. Do you realize the Detroit Tigers were the last team in the major leagues to make a trade this year? The very last team. Every other team in all of baseball made a trade. Why are your Tigers not? The Tigers are going through a rebuild. We all know they're going through a rebuild. We've discussed this. Yeah. You're not expected to win anything. So how do you not get out in front of the market and set the price?
You have great questions, and I'm here to answer them because the way that
I love how you become an Al Avila apologist. You go, you cover the Tigers for 2 days. You get a picture with Al Avila and your nephew. Next thing you know, you and Al Avila are butt boys.
No, because now I've had to be forced to kind of look at it from his point of view and go, look, he probably feels comfortable that he's going to do the rebuild correctly, not fast like we all want. He wants to do it correctly in 4 to 5 years.
Fast, but you're going to lose these guys and not get anything back.
What you disagree with is the fact that the Tigers have depth charts. They know what they want in return for their players. Now, the other part of what I said was you have to have your players be wanted and desired. So He's not going to come out and say, look, nobody really wanted Liriano in his current state. Nobody really wanted Fiers seriously enough to make an offer in terms of, hey, we need this, because you have to, like a puzzle, match it up where you go, okay, do you want Fiers? Maybe half the league says no. Okay, the other half says yes. And then you start going through the organizations and you go, okay, what are you offering me back? Half the organizations are going to say, we're going to give you a first baseman, a pitcher, a catcher, this and that. We're going to give you this. These are our prospects. You go, well, we don't need that. We need X, Y, and Z. Okay, you have X, Y, and Z. Oh, but that X, Y, and Z, that piece is ranked lower than what we're willing to give up for our guys. So yes, use the right word. Al Avila was stubborn in that I probably would have taken maybe just a little bit less than what he thought his players were worth to move forward and get prospects, but he stuck with his plan, which is I have a rating for my guy. If my guy is not going to return this, we're not doing it. And he came out and said, I don't feel no pressure to cut salary. I feel like we've picked up players. We've retooled the minor league system since 2017. We've added, several new prospects, and 7 to 9 of them that are highly ranked were not here prior to 2017. So he has his formula. Now, can you disagree with it? Yes, you have a right to pick it apart. I'm just saying that's what it was. That's what he stuck to. He did not make moves. And you also have the opportunity, if Iglesias hits, if there's a situation in which maybe Fiers could clear waivers because of his situation, then you go, okay, maybe others, that you're going to start putting on waivers could, you could make moves in August. And the move that I think that they want to make first is they hope Zimmerman pitches a little bit better because he would clear waivers.
He
would clear waivers.
There's no way you're going to get out from under
So
that
that's the part you have every right to disagree. He had a plan. He stuck with it. Now, will it end up being in 3 to 4 years? Will some of these guys pan out? That's the part that, it's hard to speculate on, is how many of these prospects are going to hit, because pretty soon, in 2 years, this year, next year, there's no expectations. Year 3, 4, and 5, he's committing to these guys that he's picked up in the minors, and he's stubborn. He's saying, this is what I want for my guys. If they do not, if I call a general manager and they offer me something that's garbage, he doesn't want to be looked at as a weak, GM that's giving up garbage. So that's why he's doing it.
I totally respect that. Now, Mike Fiers is a guy who, if I was Al Avila, I would have been demanding a lot for, because Mike Fiers has played extremely well down the stretch here. He's one of the best pitchers in the Tigers organization right now going for you, and you get 1 more year of control over him. He's arbitration eligible next year. So I found him to be a really interesting case. If I was Al Avila, I would have been taking phone calls, and I would have been like, hey, I want quite a bit, because it's going to be a prorated salary. You're basically paying $2 million, $2.5 million for him for the rest of the year. On top of that, you get to have him next year. You get first dibs on the guy. I don't mind Mike Fiers coming back next year. Right. I don't mind Mike Fiers being your third pitcher in your staff. I'm cool with that. I don't mind that. But a guy like Liriano, who's going away at the end of the year, probably a guy like not Castellanos, but Iglesias, who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year.
Yep.
Those
Victor
guys,
Martinez contract comes off the books.
Well, Victor Martinez's contract, that's fine. Nobody wants Victor. All right, he's another guy who will probably clear waivers if they do that to him.
Yep.
All right, but Iglesias and Liriano, those were the 2 guys that really chapped my ass with this whole trade deadline.
You have every right to feel that way.
You're not going to get anything back for them if they walk. And I don't think either one of those guys will get through waivers.
Exactly. Okay.
So that's my big issue.
Real quick, We're going to talk about the Lions next week much more in depth. Obviously, the news regarding Ohio State took a little bit of the shine off of the Detroit Lions. But I do want to get your sense, your 2 or 3 biggest takeaways week 1 of camp for the Detroit Lions. Now, in talking to people, just the way that it's presented, it's all positive, everything's good. As long as nobody's getting hurt, I'm okay. People will say, you can't really make a lot out of practice. You got to start really hitting the hardcore evals. You can speculate. Jason and I have talked about what we think of the offense, defense. You and I have done that as well. You can't really make a whole heck out of a lot. You can't make a lot out of what goes on in the first week of camp because everybody's looking good. It's all hype and PR, and all you got to do is just avoid injury. A couple nicks and scrapes to LeGarrette Blount and Darius Slay and Marvin Jones have kind of, shook our Twitter followers, and we can easily do that when we alert it. But as long as everybody's healthy, I'm okay with what's going on.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. The one thing that I am interested in, and a lot of my information comes from guys like Kyle Meineke or Justin Rogers, who are there following what's going on. They were recently on Big Drew and Jim. You guys can listen to 1130 WDFN. I'm the Detroit producer, so listen to that show. We need clicks. We need people to listen. I'll send you out a link. It comes in way better than the crappy static that you get from your car radio. Anyways, those guys have both talked about guys like Ragnow being an absolute stud, winning every one-on-one battle. I like to hear that. That makes me feel good about that first round draft pick.
He's playing against the Lions defense.
I get it, but he's winning every one-on-one battle. He's a rookie.
He better.
It's okay.
Okay.
All right, so I like hearing that. I like to see that Teez Tabor is progressing. It looks like he might be your second cornerback. It looks like he will be the guy who is starting opposite of Darius Slay. And again, Teez Tabor, we crushed that pick last year. And we were really down on it for the beginning part of the season because we're like, why can't this guy get on the field? Why can't he do anything? Towards the end of the season, he sat there and turned it on a little bit, looked like he started digesting the playbook a little bit more, and really showed you something. According to those guys, he's doing a great job in camp. So that's good to hear. I like hearing that. Also, Kenny Golladay sounds like he might be a breakout player. So a lot of good things going on. Now, like you said, they're going up against each other, so whatever that means, right? And they're not really wearing pads right now. Most of these things are like underwear Olympics. They're just wearing shorts and T-shirts and running up and down the field. But I like to see the competitiveness. I like hearing the good stories about them winning their battles, their own individual battles, and doing a lot of good things, putting a lot of good tape out there for the coaches to have to make a hard decision on what to do with these guys. So that's kind of where I'm at, and you're spot on. I don't really know what the heck we're going to talk about leading up into week 1 for the Detroit Lions. I think it's tonight. I think we have the Chicago Bears, right? Is that the Canton game, the Hall of Fame game?
The Hall of Fame game coming up, huh?
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, man, it hits up quick, right?
Right. So, I mean, that's where we're at. You get to watch the crappy Bears, who everybody's really high on, and that confuses me. I don't understand why everybody's super high on the Bears. Mitch Trubisky, everybody's eating the crackers and the Kool-Aid there in Chicago versus, I don't know who the heck they're playing. The Chargers, maybe? Yeah. I'm not really sure. Anyways, it's right around the corner. We're going to watch preseason game 1. We're going to come back, and then we're going to sit there and we're going to break down who the second and third string quarterbacks are. That's what we're going to talk about. You do realize that, right? Mm-hmm. That's what this is going to be the next couple weeks. So, guys, get prepared because we're going to be doing heavy analysis on who your third, fourth, and fifth string guys are. Guys who are going to make the practice squad. We're going to tell you who they are.
Yes or no, 30 seconds max. Because I do
put a time limit on me.
30 seconds, just yes or no. because
I talk.
I definitely check and peruse the landscape. There's a certain segment of fans, certain segment of people that are saying, "Look, why is Matt Patricia off the hook regarding answering the question, what happened in the bedroom?" Mm-hmm. Do you care? Do you want the media to ask that question? Because nobody's asking it. Nobody's following up. He's walked off. He said, look, I haven't been given a chance to speak the truth of what happened, but he never really did say what happened. So yes or no, do you want people to ask that question?
Yes.
And press further?
Yes.
Is it their job to do that?
It is, because this was a news story that we never got a resolution to. It was just something that kind of faded into the background.
Because he said, I'm done talking about it. But should every day one beat writer, or collectively, like The Athletic, MLive, Detroit News, Free Press, should they all just band together and say, look, we're not going to let you off the hook. Just answer the question.
You don't have to let them off the hook. You don't have to do it every day. But it is something that should be brought up. If the Detroit News was really out in front of all of this, they were the organization that produced it and really got the ball going on this, there has to be another FOIA for them to go out and get more information. Or if the victim would like to speak, they've already offered it to her, the ability to come and give her statement to the paper. She doesn't want to. So at this point, I think you have to press him at least one more time. And then if he doesn't want to answer, doesn't want to talk about it.
Just that story?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do unless you uncover more evidence. What I'm saying, though, is you go and you continue to look for evidence on what actually took place, because there's no reason he should get off the hook if he did something wrong. Now, we don't know if he did something wrong because nobody wants to talk about it.
Okay.
But there was something there.
Very good. All right. We'll take our final time out. We'll come back. We'll finish this podcast talking about social media, athletes, and reporters that are digging up this information. Is it weird? Is it something that athletes are being naive about? And we're just going to go in the future. Stay with us. Final segment, Detroit Sports Podcast. You're listening to Doc and Jock. Thanks, everybody, for your continued support. We wouldn't have been able to stay on the internet for the last 5 years without your support. How can you support us? Definitely download, subscribe via iTunes, subscribe via Stitcher, anywhere you can find a podcast. Tell one or two other people, hey, listen to Adam and John, listen to Shay, listen to Vito, Jason Jarvie, listen to Travel Basketball, listen to the Michigan Podcast. Tell everybody about the content that you hear, and that's how we've continued to grow. That's how we've gained access to the Detroit Tigers. The other free and easy way to support us, go check out our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. You can take care of all your online shopping needs. If you so want to, you can click and support us by giving us $1 or $5 a month. Nothing wrong with that. That's what keeps the lights on and the microphones hot here in our Sterling Heights studio. So go check out DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's a free and easy way to support us. We greatly appreciate it. We've done this 5 years, and we've had a blast doing it. We've lived out everything that we've wanted to do, and we're only going to keep doing it bigger, better, faster, stronger in every aspect of internet broadcasting. We're here. Might as well have fun doing it. Thanks to your support. Visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. So, cuz imagine you're about to throw a no-hitter. You're 1 out away. And all of a sudden, your family's looking at you going, potentially sending you text messages in the dugout, and they're like, when you were 16, did you send this message? And they're like, yeah. They dug it up. You know, it's unbelievable right now. You know, when you talk about it and you look at social media, you look at it and you go, didn't they learn from what happened in the NFL right on draft day? They released a picture of someone, smoking a bong right then and there. I really am surprised a company didn't come out and go, look, we'll scrub your Twitter, $1,000. You could pick up every single athlete. Boom. You probably would have made $1 million. Right. Picked up every single athlete, $1,000, $2,000. We'll scrub your Twitter clean. And nobody did it. I don't understand. Athletes to this day are still having the nonsense they tweeted years ago get revealed. Very odd situation, and one that's been talked about significantly in terms of what these athletes are tweeting and what can you forgive when a 16-year-old tweets rap lyrics with the N-word. What can you do when something is revealed based on what you tweeted, man? It's crazy.
A prime example is Sonny Gray. On Wednesday, there was a tweet that was found back from 2012, actually September 12th, 2012, my sister's birthday, at Sir_Peanut1. You did not go to college, number one. Number two, you're black. Hashtag follow the leader, clap, clap, clap. He deleted that. But everybody already found it.
Yeah.
So, hey, bro.
In our society, is it weird that people are actually, typing in weird names and words in a search engine to try and uncover the weird stuff that people tweet? Is it weird?
No, I don't think so, because once you get to a certain level, everybody wants to bring you down, right? I mean, that's kind of what it is. Have you ever posted something where you're like, I totally regret that?
That's the thing. We've posted 75,000 tweets almost, and we've never had one tweet where we lost like 1,000 people or lost more than 2 people. Obviously Michigan fans, when they kind of realize, this guy's being a little sarcastic and he's a Sparty guy, we lose a couple, but we always in that mix of just gaining people because, we know we're nice. We have Michigan people in the office.
I've had a couple people unfollow me for some not so cool tweets that I made when Mr. Ford died, but whatever. I didn't care. Yeah. But here's the deal.
Nothing racial. I think we have a policy. Nothing racial. Nothing in terms of religion. Nothing really too strong politically. So that's why we've been above board. And that all we've done is talked about athletes, scenarios, general managers, and we've been good at it.
I've never felt the need to post anything racial. Ever. I mean, I'm not a racist person.
Yeah.
But I've never been sitting there looking at my Twitter or my Facebook and was like, hey, I should post this.
Because we weren't 16 and tweeting. I started when I was 28.
I guess, but you know what? You can go back to my you remember MySpace?
Yeah.
So if you can find my MySpace, I have an interesting post about masturbation on there. So I can't remember my MySpace password, so I can't delete it.
Pro or con?
but it was like I was having a real bad day, and I just wrote about jerking off. So I mean, so if you can find my MySpace, good luck. If you can find it, take a screen grab and send it to me. Awesome. Because I can't log into my MySpace. I've tried to log into my MySpace. No. I can't log into my MySpace. I don't know how. I don't know the password. I don't even know what protocol is.
Will it continue?
Sit there and get there.
Will it continue? Will athletes get their PR guys to scrub their shit?
Well, they should. They should. Okay, first off, let's start here. You should not be posting anything racial. You're an idiot if you're racist.
Ding.
Just saying that. All right, so number 2, if you are a boner and you did post something stupid, you should have your PR guy, you should go to your team, everybody. Just go through it line by line and just pull them. Just pull them out. Just erase them. And you have to let your organization know so they can either A, get out in front of it, or be prepared for when the blowback does happen. So you just have to be responsible. It's what it is. It was something we talked about when we set this whole thing up. You have to be responsible with what you put out.
Exactly.
And that's why we've made it to where we're at, where we can go cover Tigers games because we're responsible with the information we get.
Exactly. And that's what it is, that don't be naive. People are looking. They're looking to have this discussion about you. And in terms of now what happens, I'm more of a guy.
What do you think the penalty should be for these guys?
Here's how I look at it. I always just want to ask one more question. Mm-hmm. What have you done now? How have you acted towards different people now? What you do at 16 to 18, people say, what's the age limit? Look, from 21 to 22, I think that's when you start to kind of really make better choices. So anything done before 21, I can forgive. But now, if it's in terms of racial, here's the thing, in that I'm a guy that has to discuss with people how to deal with words. And so for me, if someone writes something and it's racial in nature, I also ask one additional question. How have you acted toward black people? Have you been prejudicial toward black people in person? Look, if somebody's just typing away and writing.
You could just be a closet racist then.
No, because I look at it from this perspective. Let's say, for example, you're just typing away, blah, 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 and you're just trying to show off to your friends. Or, of course, if you're a racist and it gets revealed, you're going to be shunned. What I'm saying is, if you're a young kid, you're just typing, you want to be cool with your friends, you want to do this and that, and you're typing, but then you're a good person. I just want to ask the additional question. What have you done recently? Have you, been inclusive? Do you have friends of different races? Are you prejudicial toward anybody? Because look, words, they don't have as much meaning to me as how do you act. And so a kid typing, really, to me, I'd go, that guy's a clown. It doesn't have that sting to me. So, but if it's revealed that, this person only has a certain amount of friends and he doesn't, tip well to people of different races, or he doesn't include different races on different things, then I go, well, this guy's a racist. This guy's prejudiced. What a person writes on an internet site, like I said, that's why I think I've been able to have fun with Twitter with all the people that send nasty stuff to us. It's like, I go, dude, this is kind of funny. Right. I laugh it off. But in terms of race, I know it's not easy to laugh off, but I do ask additional questions as to, hey, okay, he made a mistake. He tweeted that. What has he done since? Has he been in therapy? Has he ever done any community service? Does he give back? Look, let's say, for example, a guy gives $1 million a year to inner city kids. Yeah, he typed this when he was 16. I weighted differently. Yeah. And so I asked, I'm saying is I want to ask one additional question. What have you done in the last 5 years of your life as an adult?
I think, too, in just me, myself, personally, I look at where I was when I was 15, 16, 17, even 18.
It wasn't above board.
I didn't really become who I am today.
Exactly.
Until later on in life. Not till 21, 22.
And your full personality is not developed till you're 26, 27.
Right.
You learn through life experiences.
I'm basically going to be this the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's who you are.
I like me.
Exactly. And that's why people go to college, to experience diversity. And you got to also remember that, there are some of these guys that wrote this stuff that are racist.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, by and large, how I deal with it is to say, look, what have you done since? So if I hear that, for example, speculating, let's say Michael Fulmer came up with something when he was 15, and then now he's done this and that and goes, oh, well, I'm not that way now. I go, okay, delete that shit, man. Let's go. And then let's move on to the next thing. I don't take it as seriously as some people have and I also believe in second chances. I believe that, hey, if you apologize and say, look, I don't treat people that way. That's some dumb stuff I wrote. I should have deleted it. But that's my fault. It's fault me for not deleting it.
I think there has to be some consequence that is paid, though, for you being a total boner and being an idiot
it's being
when you
revealed.
were 16.
It's being revealed. Like, look,
it is. But, like, so let's take Sonny Gray, right?
Yep.
Let's say this tweet never got found, but
Yep.
he deleted it. He let his organization know. And they've got to put him in some type of just because
cultural diversity training. Yes,
something. There
yes.
has to be something that is done.
Social media training
to show that you basically got to pay a penance for being a boner.
And now I would tell you, when you start having kids, and let's say your son or daughter is blessed with the ability to do athletics, I would say, look, social media, you should have two. You should have two. You should have two social media. One is business only.
Yeah.
The only thing you do is promote your brands, where you're going to be, your appearances, what you think about, or the sport, things like that. Nothing controversial. And then you have a private one where it's just for your family and friends. And
Dad has access to all of it.
Yeah, the social media should be done by a professional. Say, look, my social media is run under this, and my friend here, John Macaron, he runs my social media. He tweets everything, and it's all above board. It's all business related. Social media can be great. We built a brand around it. But it can be also toxic if you're stupid regarding it. And that's the point we'll make is athletes now have to be responsible. People are looking at it. And with that, I told you, cuz, we'd go under an hour and 10 minutes. That's what we did.
Tell me.
You said 2 hours. You're like, cut this, cut that. I'm like, no, cuz, I know. With time limits, with wrapping up, with hand gestures that are appropriate.
But if we kept the lines in,
we would have talked for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
so
sure.
we wouldn't have gone 2 hours.
Not 2 hours.
We could have hit 90 minutes. But being that we wanted to be economical with our time, we went under 70 minutes. Great job.
It's hot as hell in the studio too. Are you?
I'll lower it a little bit. It goes up.
Sweating over here?
It goes up a little bit after 7 o'clock, so I'll lower it because save some money.
Yeah, for sure. No, I got it. I got you, dude.
You know it.
I got you.
For the jock, Adam Strozinski. Follow him on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. He's doing big things. He's doing the right things with his career. Podcasting, working in radio, producing, reporting, all good stuff. Follow the network if you've agreed or disagreed with anything. We read it all. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. It's been a great 5 years. People have messaged us. Thank you. People have come into the office. Adam turns on his Twitter and he's like, damn, who's showing up with Vito every week? Someone new.
Say that.
It's like, what the heck? Derek Walton, Julius Curry. I know it's all Michigan based, but I give Vito credit. He's inviting.
He's got connects, man.
He's got connects and he's willing to invite. And that's the best part about it is we hear good stories and we're not bloggers. Please don't call me a blogger. I'm not a blogger.
Definitely not a blogger.
I'm an audio engineer.
Ooh,
audio engineer, and I'm an audio entertainer. Audio reporter. Call me anything. I'm not a blogger because I don't blog. I don't write. No. Look, the best part about...
that was the worst part about going to journalism school. I don't know why I went. I don't like to write.
Don't call me a blogger. I don't write. I don't write.
I should have went to comedian school because I want to entertain. I want to make you laugh. I want to make you feel some sort of way.
To finally put to rest, I can answer Jeff Rieger's question. Are we allowed to swear on here?
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah, we're allowed to swear. That's what makes this great. Great job, sir. I've enjoyed the 260 episodes.
Hey, man, happy 5 years.
5 years, brother. 5 years.
This started off as your idea. You came to me with it, and
here we are.
Do you remember those nights where we would stay up to 3, 4 in the morning just working? Yeah. You editing and me building websites or building images or just writing blogs or doing whatever we could do.
Woo. It was good times. It was all worth it. It was all worth it. To sit in that press box and just to say, hey, a podcaster, an audio engineer, an audio specialist was able to cover the Detroit Tigers. It's all good, man.
It was
all
awesome.
Good. All right, let's get out of here. For the jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the doc, John Macaroon. See everybody next week.
This was locker room talk.
Second deck.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me. They tell me things that I will do. They show